This video is basically testament to the fact that I have no self-control and instead I forget about how many books I've bought until it's too late. So when I saw it in Waterstones, I was like, that is mine now. Tragedy. These are basically all of the books that I picked up during my... they fell. Hey besties, it's Joel, and today I'm coming at you with a London book haul because I have spent the past few days in London just having a break and just seeing some friends, and I may have bought too many books whilst being out, and this is just testament to the fact that I basically have no self-control when it comes to London bookshops. And although I was planning on buying at least a few of these books, I didn't realise how interested I was and how tempted I am by sales. And so we're gonna get into it, and thank God for my Waterstones card because I had some money saved on there as well, which helped contribute to the amount of books that I had bought throughout this trip. I hope you're all doing very well and that you're looking after yourselves. If you've yet to take that drink of water, please do so. We must remain well and hydrated. I, for one, have a cup of tea. Not necessarily hydration, but a beverage nonetheless. If you want to get your own beverage, please do so. We're just gonna have a cozy chat today talking about the 22 books, well now 23 I think, that I bought during my trip to London. Yeah. It's a lot. There were a variety of bookstores that I went to whilst in London. I went to Waterstones Piccadilly, I went to the Major Forbidden Planet, I went to the V&A Museum, I went to Goldsboro Books, which do like these deluxe special editions, I went to Daunt Books. I also went to a few other bookshops whilst in London, but I didn't really buy anything from them. I have just had such a fun time over the past couple of days, and these books are just but a testament to the amount of fun I've had. Also, Heartstopper came out, and I was watching Heartstopper on the train here, but also in the studio room, which was very nice and just very reaffirming to watch. Like, have you watched it? I would love to know your thoughts about the Heartstopper adaptation in the comment section down below, because I just have so much admiration and love for that show, and I'm doing a video related to that show soon, which you might see throughout this book haul today. So I've split the book haul into 3 separate sections. We have fiction books, non-fiction books, and then graphic novels and manga. So I think we're just gonna dive right on in with the fiction books because we have 10 fiction books here. The first one that I then picked up was The Time Traveler's Wife by Audrey Niffenegger. I know of the Time Traveler's Wife adaptation, and I know there's a new one coming out, I think starring Theo James. I'm excited for that just because there's obviously going to be some further depth into the story, but I've been wanting to kind of read The Time Traveler's Wife for a while, and given the fact that Isaac Henderson from the Heartstopper Netflix series has read this, it's just given me the perfect excuse to start reading it. And basically this book follows the relationship between 2 people, one of whom is going forwards in time and the other who basically keeps like dropping in and out of different moments in life because they're a time traveler. They can't necessarily control it, and it basically follows them struggling to lead normal lives as one of them is basically either pushed forward in time or pulled backwards in time. And it just seems like a really interesting premise. This book is like thick though. It is like 518 pages. We're gonna see like what plots inside, but I'm excited for this. The next one I then picked up was Commotion of the Caribbean by Alex Wheatle. This one is like a Jamaican pirate story. It follows Commotion, who basically seeks freedom from slavery aboard a pirate ship. Basically there she'd be able to become a strong and like fearsome pirate. And I'm just excited about this purely because it's pirates and I'm getting into some pirate books as well for another video. And so I'm excited to see the story of Commotion and what unveils through that. I just love this black pirate girl on the cover as well. And plus, from one of the Goodreads reviews, they said that it was sapphic. So I'm like invested, but also I'm basing this off of what I've seen from one Goodreads review. So I don't exactly know if it's going to be sapphic or not. We shall see. The next one that I then picked up was The Imagination Chamber by Philip Pullman. This one, I love the His Dark Material series. I love the show that's on HBO and like BBC. And as soon as I heard that this book existed and I saw it in Daunt Books, I was just like, I'm having this. Plus, Daunt Books give bookmarks, which is amazing. Just like having a quick flick through, it seems like there's like extracts and stuff from maybe like untold parts of the series that basically give like a lot more context and just some very cool in-depth looks into the world that Lyra lives in. And just, I'm really excited about this and I'm excited to like flick through it at some point. The next book that I then picked up was The Odyssey by Laura Williams. And I basically only picked up this book because the bookseller at Waterstones Piccadilly, saw that I was picking up another book and immediately was like, I think you would be really interested in this book. And so when she described it to me, following a woman on a cruise ship that basically gets put into a mentorship scheme, and then she starts like forgetting who she is and her entire life becomes the cruise ship. It basically reminded me a lot of like Piranesi by Susanna Clarke, where the main character Piranesi, his only thoughts and feelings are regards to the house. And so I'm feeling like this could do something similar in that way, and I'm like very excited to see what this does in terms of that. Also, because it's also called the Odyssey, I'm getting vibes of like Homer's Odyssey and that kind of like long journey, and so this would make a very good analysis to kind of maybe compare the two. The next book that I then picked up was Parallel Hells by Leon Craig, and this one is like a collection of short stories, and I saw this and I immediately picked it up just from reading the synopsis, and there's mentions of like a golem, a witch. There was one that particularly reminded me of like Dark Academia almost. An Oxford historian in bitter competition with the rest of the faculty members discovers an antique tome whose sinister contents might solve her problems. And like just reading that, I was like, I need to get this book. This is 205 pages. It just seems so intriguing and good. And so I'm really excited to read Parallel Hells. We're now halfway through the fiction, which I'm like really surprised at. The next book that I then picked up was Her Body and Other Parties by Carmen Maria Machado. This is another like collection of short stories, and I know a lot of people know Machado's other work in The Dream House. I have yet to read that, but I know one of my friends really recently read Her Body and Other Parties and was just like, I really enjoyed this, and I think you would too. So when I saw it in Waterstones, I was like, that is mine now. Carmen Maria Machado demolishes the borders between magical realisms and science fiction, comedy and horror, and fantasy and fabulism. And so I'm really intrigued to see like what these stories are going to contain and get a feel for Carmen Maria Machado's writing for the very first time before I go into In the Dream House, because I feel like this would then build up to In the Dream House, and then I'll probably have like a greater admiration for In the Dream House afterwards. But I'm very excited to read this and like just go through the entire collection of short stories. The next one that I then picked up was Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse. This one gave me like feelings of The Great Gatsby, just from like the kind of someone in glorious wealth going through a conflict. It was just something about it that I was like, maybe this is something I might be interested in. According to the back of this book, it's one of the most influential spiritual works of the 20th century. As someone who loves to analyze literature, it would be really nice to kind of get where we've come from to where we are now. And I think that's one of the things I love about studying literature, because it's kind of like we get to have like an added appreciation for what came before, but then also put an emphasis on what's here now, instead of being stuck with the canon like we usually are. The canon isn't everything, and we shouldn't put so much importance on it. The next two books I got from Goldsboro, and that was Star Wars Ronin by Amika Miko Candon, and then the other book, Peach Blossom Spring by Melissa Fu. These two I'm quite excited by, because I'm trying to collect the Star Wars books, because I got into Star Wars roughly like last year, and like I don't really talk about it as much as I do, but I've been watching like The Mandalorian, The Book of Boba Fett, and I'm like really interested in seeing more from the Star Wars kind of universe. And Star Wars Ronin just really looks up my alley with like the look and the feel of this book. And then Peach Blossom Spring I've been wanting to read for a while, and my friend Molly was just like, you need to read this book. And with Peach Blossom Spring, it's just kind of like this feel of, with every misfortune there is a blessing, and inside every blessing there are seeds of misfortune, and so the cycle keeps going. And it's this thing of like cycles and stuff that I really love within fiction, and plus the cover of this is just so gorgeous. The jacket design was done by Yeti Lembrecht, and the cover illustration was done by Sija Hong, and I just can't wait to read this either. It just looks amazing, and it just looks very good. And then the final book that I then got was Never Saw Me Coming by Vera Kurian. This one just gave me the kind of like academic thriller vibes I was going for. And basically this follows Chloe, who's a diagnosed psychopath who wants to kill her childhood best friend Will. But she's also been entered into like this secret study by her university psychology department, where a bunch of people with the same exact diagnosis are being basically observed. But then as soon as Chloe's like thinking about killing her childhood best friend, a string of murders takes place that kind of puts everything on hold, because they find out the murders is being linked to the study that's being done. And so Chloe's like, I'm gonna have to solve the murders so then I can like be innocent of that, so then I can commit my own murder. And that it just sounds so delicious, and I am really looking forward to like reading this and seeing the twists and the turns it'll take me on. If I'm gonna be able to guess who the killer is before the book tells me, I love when I can do something something like that. We shall see what happens, and I'm just very excited for it regardless. So those are all of the fiction books that I have. Now I'm going to move on to the manga and graphic novels because we have a few cool ones here and I can't wait to share them with you. So the very first two manga that I got was volumes 1 and 2 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 1 Phantom Blood. I love the anime and I do need to catch up on it because I think I'm on Stardust Crusaders at the moment, but I just didn't continue. I need to continue. It's just so good. And I saw these a couple of months back and I was just like, oh, I don't really want to do it right now. Like, maybe not. But then I saw Forbidden Planet were doing a 3 for 2 deal and I basically caved and was like, okay. Because I was already looking for other manga whilst I was there because I was trying to get Naruto and One Piece, but I couldn't find them. I could not find them. I got these instead. I also got volume 1 of Full Metal Alchemist because I'm trying to get into Full Metal Alchemist as well. These are like the deluxe editions of the volumes as well, which I didn't realize until I bought it. I'm very happy about the way this looks and the way these look as well. This is basically about two brothers who are looking to like reclaim their bodies that have been lost to alchemy. And then explaining JoJo's Bizarre Adventure would probably take like an entire video in and of itself. Maybe something like Mike's Mike where I do a chaotic recap of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Yeah, I wouldn't know how to explain it. I'm sorry, but Google is free as well. The next book that I then picked up was Magical Boy by the Cow. And so this basically follows like a trans boy who's basically told by his mother that his ancestors were all magical girls who defended the world from evil. But now he's like the first magical boy, and with a sidekick cat and like his friends by his side, he kind of has to work to like save the world from an evil that's coming to like get them all. And this just like sounds so good. This is only like volume 1, so hopefully there'll be more volumes in the future. Magical Boy is a one-of-a-kind fantasy series that comic readers of all ages will love. And so I'm really excited to like read this. Plus the illustrations on the inside just look so cool. The next piece of manga that I then picked up was Alice in Borderland by Hara Aso. This one I picked up because I watched Alice in Borderland on Netflix and really enjoyed it. It's kind of like the Japanese version of Squid Game, if I kind of want to use like an analogy like that. But it's basically where all these people are basically transported to this kind of other world almost, and they have to play games in order to survive. And I just really loved this series. I know they're working on season 2 at the moment and it should be coming out soon, but I just love the series. And so when I saw this in Gosh Comics, which was another store that I went to, I was like, I'm gonna get it because I really want to read the manga and just see where the story goes further. And also the name is very intriguing as well because it's Alice in Wonderland but Alice in Borderland, and so you kind of have this whimsical magical detail, but also I can see where the Alice in Wonderland influences come from with certain characters from the manga slash TV show. And then the final piece of manga slash graphic novel that I got was Seven Little Sons of the Dragon by Ryoko Kukui. This is a collection of manga short stories that are like fantasy, and basically they cover a range of themes and time periods. No two stories in this collection are alike. And I don't know, I just saw a dragon on the cover and saw that it was like a collection of short stories, and then I had a flick through and I just loved the way the art looks as well. And so I was like, I'm gonna give this a go because I definitely want to get back into reading a lot more manga than I have in like recent years. And so when I saw this, I was like, okay, I'm gonna get this because it's very much standalone as well. So I can just read this on its own and it'll be all great and fresh and cool. I'm looking forward to reading this and seeing like which story is going to be my favorite out of the bunch. I don't know, maybe the one with the dragon will be because I'm just obsessed with dragons. But yeah, that is basically everything for the manga and the graphic novels. Now we get into the final section, which is non-fiction. And I'm surprised at how much non-fiction that I actually picked up, but we do have some very good picks here and I'm very much excited for it. So the very first non-fiction book that I picked is actually a small one, and that is V&A Souvenir. This is basically a souvenir that I picked up from the V&A museum that I went to with Divya, or as known as Divya G, on YouTube. We met up and we went to the V&A museum. It was stunning and beautiful, and our pal David, the big ass statue, iconic. But this basically just gives like pictures of like the entire museum, and you can kind of just look back and reflect on everything you've seen. The entire museum was just so beautiful, and now I'm really glad that I have like a little souvenir to remember it by. The next book that I then picked up was Under the Black Flag by David Cordingley. This is basically looking at the romance and the reality of life among pirates, because I may be doing a pirate video soon inspired by a certain queer pirate show called Our Flag Means Death, and I am very much looking at like different pieces of fiction fiction, but also non-fiction as well. I did see like Blackbeard being mentioned in this book, so I'm like, oh, we can contrast like representations of Blackbeard, and I don't know, it just very much excites me and intrigues me. I'm looking forward to having this inspection of the reality of piracy in the 18th century and see how that contrasts with the representations of piracy in, let's say, the Pirates of the Caribbean, but also Our Flag Means Death as well. Because I know a lot of people talk about like the historical inaccuracy of the show, and I think that was done intentionally, and it'll be really interesting to kind of see the reasoning behind the intentionality of the lack of historical accuracy. So I'm very excited for that. The next non-fiction book that I then picked up was The Wonderful Adventures of Mrs. Seacole in Many Lands by Mary Seacole. And this one I basically picked up because after watching that Doctor Who episode with Mary Seacole in, I definitely want to learn more about her and about her story and just the way that she helped in history. And so when I saw this in Daunt Books, I was like, okay, I'm picking this up because I just really want to learn more about Mary Seacole. She was literally a Jamaican woman whose fame rivaled Florence Nightingale during the Crimean War, and I don't think Mary Seacole is talked about as much as she is, and so I'm very much interested in learning more about the history of particularly Jamaican people in general, as someone who is Jamaican and wanting to learn more about like influential people in history. And so yeah, I'm definitely anticipating this read as well because I really want to learn more about her. Speaking of being Jamaican but also kind of like biracial, I then picked up Biracial Britain: What It Means to Be Mixed Raced by Remy Adekoya, and this one just looks to be a non-fiction look into the ways in which people perceive mixed race people. And it's talking about like the racial polarization of being mixed race, because it's always viewed as us and them, black and white, and so it kind of looks about like what happens if you're somewhere in between. I saw this and kind of resonated with it, and I think it's going to be interesting to read, but also gather my own conclusions based on this. It'd be really interesting to read this and see how someone else views being mixed race in Britain. The next two books are ones that I picked up because of Isaac Henderson yet again, and that is Gender Explorers by Juno Roach, and also There Is No Planet B by Mike Berners-Lee. This one covers gender, this one covers climate change, and I saw them in Waterstones and was like, okay, I can start book shopping now for the Isaac video. But seeing Isaac read these books, it's going to be very interesting to kind of look at why he's reading these books specifically, but then also what I take from these books as well, what Isaac could potentially take from these books. And so I'm interested to read both of these and see what I think about them. I think it's going to be a very fun video, and I'm really looking forward to it. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to seeing what these books have to deliver. And then the final book that I then picked up from the entire haul, but also the final non-fiction book, is Tragedy by Terry Eagleton. I have a massive fascination with tragedy. I love tragedy. You may be thinking, that's not like me in general. I'm like wholesome, soft, you know, everything. But I don't know, it's something about tragedy when it's done correctly and right, that it just creates something amazing. Like, I think there's a balance you need to hit with tragedy, because a lot of the time people perceive tragedy as basically being a trauma dump, but with tragedy, in my viewpoint, you kind of need to have moments where there's hopefulness and like anticipation and people actually being like looking forward to the future, then in turn makes the tragedy hit that much harder. I think that unforgivable, but also very good writing. Terry Eagleton is mostly looking at how tragedy has been built up in the West and seeing how this dramatic form has been shaped across history. And I'm really looking forward to it because I'm doing a lot of research on tragedy right now, because I want to do like a video essay eventually on the art of tragedy and the hero's journey to death, and basically take an examination into why some heroes, if they don't complete the hero's journey, why their fates inevitably end in tragedy. And I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's gonna be a very interesting video essay to do. I don't know if I'll be putting it on the channel per se, it's for a university assignment, but I do think it could be something I would record at some point. If you're interested in that, let me know. It's very interesting to look at tragedies in many different ways, because back in like the 18th century, let's say, and like Greek times, tragedy was always death, kind of fatal flaws, but now we kind of have this kind of domestic tragedy coming into the forefront where it's like the death of a relationship, a more symbolic death. But yeah, that's tragedy. Tragedy. It's tragedy. I'm gonna have like half an hour to like pack all of these. This is not gonna go well, and I'm screaming. These are basically all of the books that I picked up during my They fell. It's fine. During my trip to London, I've just had so much fun, like, exploring the bookshops, and London is definitely one of my favorite places to go book shopping. I definitely think one day I will probably just come here with a suitcase to go book shopping and just try and support, like, as many independents as possible. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me today. I've had so much fun talking to you. Are there any books in this list of books that you've seen today that you've already read and you would love for me to read? I would love to see your thoughts and feelings in the comment section down below. Are there any books you want me to check out in the future? Again, let me know how you felt about the Heartstopper adaptation if you've watched it already. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you're new here, be sure to click that subscribe button so you're notified whenever I upload next. I'll have all of my social medias in the description down below so you can follow me on every single other platform. And yeah, I've just got such exciting content coming up, and I cannot wait to read all of the books and just tell you everything and just basically share my love of literature with you all, because that's basically what this channel is about. Creating a safe space for everyone to share their love of literature. And so yeah, I guess until the next time, bye besties.